Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here today in this live webinar on the very valuable subject of natural treatments for weight gain as per Ayurveda. So first, we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of being underweight, signs of being low fat, low muscle, low bone density, some other symptoms that are included. And then we'll talk about foods that are building and strengthening and weight gaining. And then we'll talk about herbal remedies that can help and support weight gain. So first, let's talk about signs and symptoms of being underweight. Of course, we have many misconceptions on this subject. Many people are striving to be underweight, and many people want to be at a certain dress size or a certain weight, or they feel they're happy or comfortable with a certain weight, which is below what they are now. But in fact, the human body will find its natural weight if you are eating properly and eating the right foods for you. And you shouldn't force weight loss, particularly on a body that's not overweight. Unfortunately, many people, women in particular, are striving to be thinner when in fact many of these people are already underweight. We can see in many professions like stewardesses, models, are already underweight because the society is pressuring women in particular to be depleted and underweight. So this is unfortunate. And of course, many people, particularly women, have social pressure or desires to continually lose weight when in fact they are underweight. So we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of being underweight so you can identify if you're underweight. And I believe there's far more people that are underweight who don't realize that they're underweight and don't realize this other symptoms that they're having are a result of being underweight. With meeting clients on a regular basis, meeting an overweight person's always very relaxing. The overweight person is very clear they have to lose weight, and they're very clear about they have to not have heavy foods, dense foods, and lose weight. But an underweight person is often in denial of being underweight. In fact, many underweight or thin people are still striving to lose more weight. But as we know in Ayurveda, there's many different types of prakriti or body types, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and combinations there of Vata, Pitta, Vata, Kapha, Pitta, Kapha, Pitta, Vata. And a Vata type of person who's thin, light, cold, dry, mobile, active, tends to be thin, dry, spacey, light, and has difficulty in gaining weight. So this type of person, if you're in this category, you could also be Vata Pitta, which is a little bit more heat, but basically you're thin, not a lot of shape, not big hips, and not shapely, but particularly when you're young. This type of person shouldn't make an effort to lose weight. This type of person should be making an effort to always strengthen and build their muscles and even add more fat to the body. And many people who are thin believe it's due to their exercise or their effort, but in fact this is their natural state, or prakriti, the way they were born. So they were really destined to be thin, and all the efforts they're making to exercise, diet, are actually creating a situation where they're underweight and depleted. And this is very, very common for different types of professions, even yoga teachers, athletes, and fitness trainers who are under the belief that they're thin because of their efforts, but in fact they were born in this manner and often are, like I said, depleting themselves. So this is for this person who needs to gain weight, more shape, more strength to their body. And let's talk about some of the common signs of being underweight. First, if you have low fat in the diet, one sign is dry skin, dry lips, aging skin, wrinkles, thin skin. You can look at the back of your hand and grab the skin on the back of your hand, and if it's paper thin, then we know that the person's not getting much fat, and there's a thin coating over their body, so a thin cell membranes, thin membrane over the nerves, myelin sheath, and this will create conditions such as anxiety, hypersensitivity, poor sleep. So poor sleep is one symptom of just a low-fat diet. And of course, one reason people are underweight is because they're avoiding fat. But in fact, this fat is necessary for lubrication of your joints. And one sign and symptom of a low-fat diet is cracking joints. So if your joints are cracking, your skin is thin, then you're not consuming enough fat. And no, just having an avocado and a couple nuts a day or handfuls of nuts is not sufficient fat. So many people are under the impression they're having enough fat because they're eating nuts and having avocado. But the fact of the matter is they have the cracking joints, they have the dry stools, they have the poor sleep, they have the thin hands, they have all the symptoms of having insufficient fat in their diet. Now, signs and symptoms of low muscle density: cramping in the muscles, muscle pain, muscle weakness, and fatigue. An underweight person often has a lot of energy in the morning, but in the afternoon they're fatigued. They have no stamina, and this is due to a low muscle density. We could say to some degree insufficient protein. We can see this in oftentimes vegetarians or vegans. They're already thin, already probably underweight from a health perspective, and then they don't have any meat or any dairy, and then they have weak muscles and are easily fatigued. And often we see this person then resort to coffee and other stimulants, which only takes away their appetite and makes the situation worse and leads to other conditions like anxiety, insomnia, and adrenal fatigue. Signs that you just need to build more and put on more weight on your body are what we call in Ayurveda holes. Holes like if you have spaces between the ribs and you can see all your bones on the back of your hand and you can see the ribs underneath your chest. I mean, I would show you, but I don't have clear view of ribs, but I know that's kind of popular to try to have a ribs or a six-pack, but in fact, this is a sign of depletion. And in fact, I have a horse, and the first thing a vet does when he sees a thin horse is he feels along the ribs, and if you can feel the bumps of the ribs, then the vet will tell you your horse needs to have more supplements, more grain, and maybe even more fat in the diet. And they also touch the spinal cord, the back of the spine of the horse, and see that right on the back, and press down. And if they can touch the spine and without much, padding, then they also know the horse needs more fat in the diet, which is the same as just, feeling your skin here. If it's all bony, then this is a lack of fat. If your bones are sticking out, your rib bones are sticking out, your hip bones are sticking out, and you have holes, like in the collarbone. If you have like big holes here in the collarbone, and you have, space between the ribs, but mostly I can't see the client's ribs, so I'm looking at the back of the hand, looking for bones, looking for veins sticking out, bones sticking out, and spaces in the collarbone in this area. It's a sign of depletion because everything should be smooth, should be filled in. So these are the signs. And other symptoms that we don't think about of having this being underweight include being spacey, poor sleep, tremors, and nerve conditions. Because when you're on a low-fat diet and you have insufficient fat in the body, then like I said, the skin's thin, the cell membrane is thin, the nerve myelin sheath that covers the nerves, which is made of fat, is thin. So this person becomes hypersensitive to sounds, to touch, even to words and environments, like loud noises can bother them. and they can become susceptible to neurological problems such as anxiety, Parkinson's, MS, panic attacks, and this is all due to this state of depletion. We could think of it like this: when you're driving your car and the engine light, not the engine light, but the fuel gauge says, you're on empty. It's like the yellow shows up. So you don't have much fuel left. So you feel a little nervous. You're driving along the highway. You don't know where the next gas station is. You only have like 15, 20 miles left, and you're going to be on the side of the road. So you start getting nervous, looking for an exit, because you still have gas, but the body that you're going to run out soon, so it makes you nervous. So the body's the same. When it doesn't have sufficient food, because you're dieting, skipping meals, fasting, eating salads, having smoothies and juicing, when in fact the body needs to build muscle, then the body's in a constant state of anxiety and nervousness, because it doesn't know that you're trying to lose weight and there's food all around you. The body only sees it's not getting fed enough. It's just like an animal. If you don't feed an animal enough, it's become nervous, anxious, and even irritable, because it's hungry all the time. So a lot of people who are dieting, trying to lose weight when they're already underweight, have these type of symptoms: spacey, lightheaded, anxiety, panic attacks, poor sleep, and it's all due to being underweight. In fact, many clients who've come to me who are a Vata Prakriti or Vata Vikriti, which means they're depleted. Vata Vrudi means Vata's too high, and they have spaciness. When Vata is in the colon Apanavayu, then they get constipation and dry stools. And when Samanavayu, they have trouble digesting, gas, bloating, and they have circulation problems. So they have all these cold hands, cold feet, spaciness, poor sleep. So they have all these Vata-related problems. So, I put them on a Vata increasing diet, or Vata balancing diet, which is building, strengthening, and going to put weight on them, and give them some herbal supplements for sleeping and digestion. And then they come back, it's very common, and they say, well, great news, Khabir. The good news is, my constipation is gone. I'm sleeping much better. My anxiety is better. I feel more grounded. I'm not losing my keys. But they said there's one problem. And I go, what's that? Well, I've gained like 7 pounds. But that's why all of these conditions got better, because the body was in a state of panic by being 7 to 10 pounds underweight. And now it's finally satisfied because the person stopped thinking about losing weight and started focusing on eating and allowing the body to find its natural weight. And once the body found its natural weight, where it was happy and comfortable, then the anxiety went away. And the person felt more grounded and not so spacey and less panicky. So this is a very, very common cycle that I see. So a lot of times I don't tell a woman that she's going to gain weight. I just tell them to eat your 3 meals a day and eat these Vata balancing meals, and they gain weight, and they're shocked. And then, of course, they get concerned that they're going to keep gaining weight, because they just, in 1 month, they gained 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds very quickly. And the reason they gained it so fast is because they were underweight to start with. So I tell them, don't worry, just keep eating your sweet potatoes, your butter, your cheese, your fish, and just keep going. And they go, you sure I'm not going to gain another 7 pounds? I go, no. You are born thin, cold, dry, light, Vata, in other words, and you're going to remain that way. It's going to be very difficult for this type of Vata person, thin, cold, dry, light, underweight person, to gain weight. So even they continue eating, they come back second and third appointment, and they haven't gained any more weight. They go up to 7 pounds, which filled in all of the spaces in their body, made their skin thicker, made them less sensitive, put more shape on their body, but it didn't keep going up, because once the underweight issue was resolved, it stopped. Now, of course, this type of person can easily lose the weight. Say they have anxiety, stress, or they get an infection, and a fever where they can't eat, they could quickly lose that 7 or 8 pounds again. So they have to make an effort to even keep this 7 pounds on by continuing to eat the right foods, keep their digestion going, and keep their bowels moving good. So it's very important to allow the body to be at its own weight and not try to be over controlling with your own body. And we, of course, we hear this all the time. I feel more comfortable in this smaller dress size. Oh, I want to be like I was before. You know, of course, if you're truly overweight, then this is understandable. But unfortunately, many thin people are trying to, be thinner. And this is very unhealthy. As you can see, many of the symptoms we talked about here are very common with underweight people. So I hope you see that these, by allowing the body to find its own natural weight, you will find more peace, happiness, contentment, less stress, and better sleep in your life, and less chance of neurological problems like Parkinson's, joint pain, arthritis later in life. And I also want to mention, when you're underweight, you have low immunity or low Ojas. So this means you're going to be much more susceptible to getting infections and getting colds. This is very common for underweight people, getting infections and colds. So you're in a very unhealthy state, even though society thinks, wow, she's so thin. But in fact, this type of person, I see it even with models. They're supermodels. And so we know society values them being all thin. But when they come to me, they talk about the poor digestion, the constipation, the insomnia, the panic attacks, the nerves, the twitching, the muscle cramps, the fatigue. They have a long list of problems, including low immunity and catching colds. But in society, they're, paid to remain thin. So let's next talk about the food, because this is the most important area for weight gain, is your diet and your eating habits. And to have gain weight, you have to have good digestion. If your digestion's poor, how are you going to be able to eat, and how are you going to gain weight? And you also have to have good elimination. You need to be having 2 or 3 bowel movements a day, because if it's not coming out, then you're not going to have appetite to eat. And we need you eating to gain the weight. So if you're constipated, which would mean for sure if you're skipping a day, but I know clients that have come in skipping 3 or 4 days, having a bowel movement only 2 a week. So this is going to interfere with your ability to eat more and absorb nutrients, and you're going to be in a state of nutritional depletion and often be underweight just because your bowels are not moving. So there's many formulas and herbs that can be used for constipation. I have many videos on this subject, but this is a very important area to address with a person who's underweight. Also, digestion. Digestion should be strong. The person should be hungry in the morning. If they're underweight, they should be hungry. Now, a lot of people who are underweight are, yes, very hungry. They wake up hungry because the body's starving, and every day they're hoping they get to eat more. But sometimes the person is not starving because they're snacking or grazing, which ruins your digestion. And again, I have many videos on improving your digestion. But this is, and it's a big subject, and there's many signs of digestive imbalances, and there's many treatments and many cures. But the digestion should be strong, and no gas, no bloating after the meals, and no constipation. So these are the first things you must address, is to improve the digestion and improve the bowel movements. Now, when we talk about what foods to eat, we want to eat mostly sweet foods and heavy foods and dense foods. What is sweet foods? Sweet fruits. Rice is considered sweet. This is like coconut rice, so that's sweet. Bread is considered sweet. Wheat is sweet and building. We know people who are overweight, shouldn't be eating rice and bread because they're weight gaining. And oats, one of the best breakfast foods for a Vata or a person who's underweight, is oats. So they're all sweet. They all have a sweet taste to them. And of course, ghee. They should be using a lot of ghee. You can use butter, but ghee is better. And so these are sweet things like sweet roots, sweet potatoes, sweet carrots, beets. These are all sweet. They're roots. So sweet taste is very important. Even bananas, dates. Sweeter, the better. And as people who are overweight knows, you can't be eating bananas and dates and having oatmeal with coconut in it and ghee, or you will gain weight. But this would be your objective. And again, I'll repeat, even if you're underweight and you've always been underweight and had difficulty gaining weight, when you eat all of these foods, if they're natural, organic foods, and you're not snacking and not doing junk food, even though you may gain weight in the beginning, it will stabilize. I just wanted to repeat that. So also we want heavy foods, dense foods. We don't want to be eating light foods. What are light foods we want to avoid? Salads. You don't eat salads if you're underweight. Salads is for overweight people. So no salads, not a lot of leafy greens. If you do have leafy greens, they should be sauteed in oil or at least steamed in a soup and shouldn't be the main part of the meal. So no salads, basically. And also no cabbage family. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale. It's cruciferous. I mean, it's cauliflower. It's a flower. So we could say in Ayurveda, if you want to gain weight, don't eat leaves and flowers, because that's what leafy greens are. They're leaves. You don't gain weight eating leaves. You don't gain weight eating flowers. You gain weight eating roots and gourds. Gourds are things growing on vines, squash, zucchini, pumpkin. These are also good for weight gain. There's other green beans are good. And also the food should be warm, never cold, because a Vata type of person has difficulty in digestion. So warm foods, soft foods, cooked foods, not raw. Raw is too cleansing, too detoxing. And we do see a lot of people who are underweight due to over fasting, over detoxing, over cleansing. So we don't do sprouted mung beans. We do, and sprouted beans. We do soft, warm. Here's like lentils with butternut squash and coconut. This is perfect. It's sweet. There's squash in it. There's lentils in it. And also you can cook sweet potatoes is very good for weight gain. So like rice with coconut and sweet potatoes and butter or ghee, oatmeal with butter, honey, maple syrup, nuts. Nuts are also very dense, but don't snack on the nuts. And best nut, of course, is cashew, an oily, soft nut, and almonds. These are all building. So you can put nuts in your food, nuts in your rice, nuts in your oatmeal, and cook them so they're all soft. And basically, a person who's thin and underweight shouldn't be vegetarian, definitely not vegan. Of course, if you're overweight, you're obese, you have fatty liver, you're 50 pounds overweight, and you have high cholesterol, you can't be following this diet. You have to follow a kapha pacifying diet, but we're not talking about that. So, and that type of person who has fatty liver, high cholesterol, shouldn't be eating meat. They should be vegetarians and eat beans. This is a kapha type of person. But for Vata type, it's not recommended in Ayurveda for this person to be vegetarian. So they should have oily fish, a dark chicken meat, dark chicken or dark turkey. This is the legs, the dark oily meat. And sometimes even bone broth or red meat or meat soup, as particularly a menstruating woman who's young and thin, having a heavy menstrual bleeding may do very well with like hamburger soup or meat soup. And soups are where you put in all the sweet potatoes, carrots, beets, bone broth, and mild spices, oil. Plenty of oil and plenty of fat, particularly if there's low fat, indications of low fat, which is usually the case. So sweet, heavy, dense foods. And that would include dairy. You can't be snacking on cheese because all these snacking on crackers, chips, and nuts and cheese will just dampen and ruin your appetite. So when it comes time for the meal, you won't be able to eat much because you've been snacking all the time. So you need to have gaps between the meal. If the person's thin and very hungry, they should do 4 meals a day and have sweet fruits between, like bananas, dates, even some fruit juices like mango juice, not so much lemon, lime, and citrus and sour juices, but sweet juice like mango or, banana shakes. Even one weight gaining formula, which I give to people, is like a yogurt shake. You get half a cup of yogurt, 1 cup of water, put in a blender, put in 3 or 4 dates, no pit, 5 or 6 almonds or cashews. that have been soaked overnight better so they're soft. Put them in a blender, put in a little cumin, maybe a pinch of nutmeg, and blend it all up. Maybe even a pinch of salt. And blend this up, and it's like a shake made of yogurt. So even banana yogurt shake, these are all weight gaining things. Date shake, putting yogurt with the food, yogurt with the rice, sprinkling some cheese on your vegetables. These are all building foods. Now, of course, I'll repeat again for the third time. If you're underweight, you've always had trouble putting on weight, and you start following this, what we call Vata pacifying diet, which is a weight gaining diet, you'll only gain weight up to a certain point, and then you'll just stay at that healthy weight. And a lot of your health problems, particularly that are involving, your nervous system, like insomnia, anxiety, things like that, will improve very quickly once you put this weight on. And then you'll find that it's actually quite easy for you to lose the weight in certain circumstances. So you have to eat, you have to trust, you have to have faith in the body, you have to allow the body to find a weight that it's happy with. Okay? So we can go a lot more into the diet, but and there's what is called a Vata pacifying diet. You could go online and you can find it, or you could do an appointment with me and I could give you this diet, give you the meal plans. And there's some people who are maybe Vata Kapha or Vata Pitta, and there would be some variations in this diet depending on your Vikriti or any imbalances that you have. Like if you had acid reflux or fatty liver or high cholesterol, we'd have to modify that diet. Now, there are herbs that help with weight gain. Many people probably are familiar with ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is very popular. It's an adaptogen. This means it gives you strength, energy, and helps with stamina. But it's a weight gainer. Unfortunately, many overweight people are having it because they've read online that it's so wonderful, but it's a weight gainer. And it gives you stamina. It's one of the premier foods for Vata who are fatigued and weak. And also another herb in Ayurveda called Bala. Bala means strength. So it's another building herb. Vidarikan, which is actually a type of potato. See, it's Vidarikan root. This is also a weight gaining herb. Shatavari, which is sweet and cooling, also is helpful in weight gain. Dashamula, which means 10 roots, also helpful in weight gain. So we have a formula here called weight gain formula. There it is. And it's for gaining weight, building strength, and muscle mass. And you can take quite a bit of it, like 1 or 2 teaspoons between meals with warm, raw milk or milk substitute if you have trouble digesting milk, with 1 tablespoon of raw sugar, cane sugar, plus 1 teaspoon of ghee. This is a weight gainer. It's all of these roots there. You can see Vidarikan, ashwagandha, shatavari, bala that I just mentioned, plus got licorice, cumin, and ginger. That's to help you digest it because these are very heavy formulas. This is a brilliant formula, if I do say so. And look at that. You take it with milk and sugar. A weight gainer, or as we try to tell the ladies, a figure maker. Generally a woman will fill out in the breast and the hips first. So that can be a real plus for many women. But yeah, raw milk is a very strengthening and building and encouraged for this type of person. So we have other supplements here. This is Ojas formula, and Ojas formula is for immunity. It's building immunity. But look, it's a lot of the same herbs: ashwagandha, shatavari. There's bringraj, muesli, which is also a building herb. Brahmi for the mind, jyotismatsi, shankpushpi, and cardamom. So there's more immune building, but it also builds strength, endurance, and reduces anxiety. And we have other adrenal top formulas too that also have a lot of ashwagandha in it. And here's another one. It's called Vata Superfood. And there we go. Here, this is for extra. So you should still have your 3 meals a day and not have skip meals. So this would be like a supplement. Wheatgrass, dashamula, which I just mentioned, little spirulina, little chlorella in there. There's the ashwagandha again. and beetroot powder, another root, and then cumin, cinnamon, ginger, and some kelp. So this is very nutritious, and it has 2 of these weight-building herbs in there, dashamula and ashwagandha. So that can be taken in the morning. Then in the afternoon, can do an adrenal tonic if there's fatigue and strength. These are all buildings. This supports adrenal health, provides non-stimulating energy, and reduces anxiety. And look, a lot of the similar herbs again: ashwagandha, vidarikan, bala, and then brahmis for the mind, tulsis for the immunity, and the adrenal, cinnamon, licorice, cumin, and ginger again to help you digest it. So any combination of these I would choose to help a person. And if there's low bone density, we know there's pitting in the teeth, weak fingernails, hair, then we know that bone density is low. So we also have another formula here called, bone building formula. And this one has other herbs in it that are very nutritious. Pravopanchment, pravopishti, arjuna, and other herbs that are high in calcium and minerals and increase your bone density. And dashamula is in there because it's very high in minerals. We also have other bone building tabs here, and these are also made for building the bones and strengthening the bones. And this is a particular resin called Lakshadi Gugulu. It's a resin that's particularly known for building the bones. And if the hair is falling out, fingernails are weak, then we have formulas for this too, hair and nail formula. Bringraj, Amlaki, Bhumamataki, Brahmi. There's some ashwagandha in there. And Pravopanchment is a very good source of calcium and minerals. So this is for thinning hair, balding, and weak fingernails. So all of these that I mentioned are building and strengthening. And you combine that with these 3, maybe 4 meals a day, and these yogurt drinks, these dates and bananas in between, and then you start to gain weight very quickly. And if the person's not sleeping well, then you need to, I guess, some herbs for sleeping. Of course, many herbs for sleeping. You'll see Jatamansi, Shankpushpi, Brahmi, Ashwagandha all in there. Or maybe just a sleeping tea to help them sleep a little better. Sometimes just a relaxing tea to help them to maybe all you need to sleep better. The right product has to be picked for the each individual because everybody's different. And then again, some colon herbs, some digestive herbs. Sometimes we give digestive tea to make the digestion strong, some colon herbs and to get the bowels moving, and then one of these or 2 of these formulas that I showed here for strength, immunity, endurance, and weight gain. You just have to pick the right formula for the right person. So and then a few home remedies, of course, is don't over-exercise, rest more, take naps more, take rest after meals, don't overexert yourself, don't be running, instead be walking, and don't have too much sex, it's too depleting, particularly for men, and take more breaks and don't push yourselves and get to bed early and allow the body to get sufficient sleep. These are all, and keep stress low because, as you know, this type of person, if stress goes up, then their digestive system is poor, and they even lose their appetite, and then they don't eat. So once again, you can't be this type of person who's thin, dry, light, or Vata, and needs to gain weight based on the signs and symptoms, not based on what they think they should be, but these signs and symptoms of being underweight. If you're this type of person, then having smoothies, salads, and skipping meals would be counterindicated. This is going to only make your condition worse, and many of these symptoms like aging, poor sleep, constipation, muscle cramps, insomnia, and anxiety are only going to increase. Trying to live off of smoothies and salads and skipping meals, or even just trying to be a vegan or vegetarian without sufficient protein, animal fat, and dairy. So it's a very wonderful diet. Think of it that way. You get to eat a lot. You get to have 3 meals. You get to have butter, cheese. You can have fish. You can have chicken. So it's enjoyable. Most people who, once they get on it and accept that they were underweight and they gain the weight, are very happy because all these health problems fall away. And then they're very happy because they get to eat, they get to enjoy life, they don't have to restrict themselves from eating, and they become more happy. Because when you're restricting yourself from eating when you're underweight, it's going to, like I said, going to create stress, but ultimately unhappiness, because you're eating the wrong foods for your type. So anybody eating foods that they don't like or not suitable for them, and they're eating it just because they think they should be eating it, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy, because you're happy when you're eating foods that feel good for you and balance you. And if you're underweight and you're eating salads, you're going to have, you can't be fully satisfied and happy. Okay? Well, I hope this helped you understand first the importance of finding your natural weight and not trying to control your weight, and understand how many symptoms there are for being underweight and how common of a problem this is, of being underweight. I do have a video called Do You Over Detox? I do have another video called Are You Underweight? And I would encourage you to watch those as well, because they can help you further understand if you're in this category or not. Once again, thank you very much, and feel free to contact me if you need assistance with any of your health conditions, and particularly if you feel you want to become stronger, have more endurance, and have a better shape to your body, and thus not be underweight any longer. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you the best of happiness and health.